Story is important because it infects you in two different ways. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. First one is that every one of these Senate races from here until November, there's 33 of them. Every one of them, the entirety of the Senate hangs in the balance. We have a split Senate right now. It is a 50-50 shot, and whoever wins in November, if any seats can be flipped, that decides who is going to be able to control the Senate. And controlling the Senate doesn't just mean you have 51 votes. It means you control what bills get brought up and when, and the amendments process and whatever. It's a great piece of power that is at stake of all of these. So you may not think, well, I don't really care about what happens with the Senate race in Maine. Well, you will, because it could be the deciding vote on whether or not we repeal Obamacare, or whether or not we get the SAVE Act, or whether or not you get your tax cuts extended, or whether or not it stinks. And you're not going to have a say in the voting process, but you might want to keep an eye on it because it does affect you. The other way that this Graham Plattner story is important for me to tell you is because it has demonstrated the level of political hackery in so many people that credibility should be blown out of the water for anyone who supported this guy. Because they're going to say, well, these are new allegations or new accusations or new stuff has come to light. No, we've known he was a creeper for months. I didn't know much about this, but there was a lady who did an interview for the New York Times, and they paid her for her story to have the exclusive. And when the story came out, the New York Times was saying, well, we tried to call all of the witnesses that she claimed, but none of them could corroborate her story. Yeah, we couldn't confirm this other piece of evidence here. Well, then she goes on Twitter and starts blasting them. She says, hey, I talked to the people that I gave you contact info for, and the three that I said were actual witnesses I confided into right after it happened. You didn't call any of those. And you didn't confirm with my therapist. Look, here's the text messages between me and my therapist 5 years ago. Oh, there's evidence. But the rest of the media didn't pick it up. So basically, the New York Times went and they got the story. They spun it the way, in the most soft way possible it could, and then buried it. So we've known for a while. This is the guy with the Nazi tattoo on his chest. So now that there is another woman that has come out, she is getting special attention now, because one of the dismisses of the other women, and it's plural, who have accused him of sexual harassment or assault or just being a general predator, said, oh, this is just political. Why now? Well, because he's running for Senate now. He's never really run for office before. Well, this lady comes out, and she is a strident pro-Team Blue activist, so you can't just dismiss her. Plus, she used to work for him. Plus, she has all the evidence in the world. And so finally, of all people, Jake Tapper breaks the seal and released this interview with, her name's Jenny, over the weekend.
I had never been in that situation before. And I remember it being an instant where I had recognized that he wasn't listening to me. It wasn't just that he wasn't hearing me or whatnot. And then I recognized his level of intoxication, and I knew in that moment I wasn't safe. And I don't think I was safe to physically fight back. He's big, he's strong. And I just had to evaluate my safety and come up with the least worst outcome to the situation. And so I felt like complying for my safety was the least worst option.
So we have yet another accusation against this guy, and we all are just clapping to ourselves over here in Team Red Media, because we have hours and hours of audio of people defending this guy. I know, golf clap. We have Elizabeth Warren endorsing the guy. We have Bernie Sanders endorsing the guy. Imagine that, Bernie Sanders, a Jewish fella, endorsing a Nazi. But it also belies these other accusations, like the Brett Kavanaugh accusations that were happening when he was trying to be confirmed to be on the Supreme Court. Remember, Christine Blasey Ford comes out And they believed her, and they held up the nomination of Supreme Court member, and they had public hearings, and they spent hours and hours and hours of airtime covering that. But she didn't have a time. She didn't know what day it was, what month it was, what year it was. She knew what town it was in, but she didn't know what house, whose house it was, or where the house is. There weren't any witnesses. And the 4 people that she said were with her that day have no recollection of the event. But she was believed. Here we have tons of evidence actually on the record for multiple accusers. And so now I guess the next question is, why now? What's different about this one? This we only believe women if they're Democrats? You can go rape all the Team Red women you want. We're not going to hold you to account for that. And there's not a good answer for that. But I did get another piece of secret audio. I mean, nobody gets away with anything these days. And so actually, the question was he ever properly vetted? And I'm not sure. I think he was, and they were just going to go with him anyway, because this was in the job interview that Graham Plattner had with the Democrat Party of Maine when they decided to make him a candidate for Senate.
Next.
Qualifications.
Rape, murder, arson, and rape.
You said rape twice.
I like rape.
Charming. Sign right here.
Coming up next, you're going to hear how the media was reporting on this last night. And it's going to be kind of funny, kind of sad at the same time. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on Newstalk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, homeowners, James Parker here for Blue Ribbon Roofing. You may be wondering, how long does a roof replacement take? Well, I've had one roof replacement in my entire life. It took 1 day. And John Hopkins says over at Blue Ribbon Roofing, even if you have a big house and it's complicated with a bunch of different turns and places that stick out and nice little architectural features, 2, maybe 3 days max. But the big headache, don't worry about the time. They're going to go out there. They're probably going to get it done in 1 day or 2, but they're going to clean everything up. You don't really have to worry about that part. The roof, and I don't want to say it's the easy part, but look, that's always going to be taken care of by Blue Ribbon Roofing. What you really want their help for is dealing with the insurance company, because there's a lot of people who haven't been through this claims process before. Maybe you've been through it once, and if they come back and they try and short you a little bit or they deny it, do you know who to call? Do you know what forms to fill out? Do you know what to say to get the most out of the insurance company? I sure as heck don't. Blue Ribbon Roofing does. So not just for an awesome roof, but also for help with the entire process, including the insurance company. If you have any doubts about your roof, get a free inspection now. Go to blueribbondfw.com. Well, today, our Democrat friends are deciding whether or not they want to continue supporting a Nazi rapist. That's not hyperbole. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You're home for the WBAP morning show. Check out my buddies on from whenever you wake up until 9 o'clock. But also, Jimmy Fallon had, I think, one of the most perfect posts possible in response to Graham Plattner. He's the candidate to run for Senate. Just won the Democrat primary up in Maine. This is going to decide who runs the Senate. Each one of these races has the Senate hanging in the balance. And he was recently exposed, not just for having the Nazi tattoo, but now for being a serial rapist, allegedly, reportedly, yada, yada. But Jimmy Fallon says Elizabeth Warren wants to retract her endorsement of Graham Plattner, but she doesn't want to look like an Indian giver. Oh, my God. Someone call 911. We have a murder on aisle 4. Jimmy Fallon has murdered Elizabeth Warren. Oh, my goodness. It was a sneak attack, wasn't it? All right, enough of that fun stuff. The other fun part of this is how it has been portrayed in the media. Because the accusations are not fun. The fact that he has raped multiple women or is credibly accused of raping and sexual assault of multiple women, disgusting. Should be a deal breaker, given the evidence that we see here. Look, I got it. If there's no evidence and it's just a he said, she said, we have noticed how in politics people have used very specious, spurious sexual assault allegations to try and unseat someone who seems like is just being done for political reasons. But in this one, it seems like there's something a little more. Now, the media has been soft pedaling this, and Graham Plattner has only made it this far because there has been no real journalistic integrity in scrutinizing a guy who's asking for a pretty important seat here. Now, all the broadcast evening newscasts covered this new rape allegation last night against Maine's Democrat Senate nominee Graham Plattner. But according to newsbusters.org, it wasn't a top story. ABC and CBS waited more than 10 minutes into their show. The PBS NewsHour waited 37 minutes to get around to it. And it's almost as if they're going to do a minute buried in their newscast just so they can't be accused of not reporting it. But even in that way, the way they report it, like I can play you the whole thing of NBC News, but you're not going to hear the part where they actually talk about the Nazi tattoo. Like they left it out. They reported.
We want to get to some breaking news just in one of the biggest Senate races in the country. A woman who dated Maine Democratic Senate nominee Graham Plattner saying he raped her. Ryan Nobles reports top Democrats are now calling on him to exit the race.
Now, ABC News jumped on it, but they waited more than 10 minutes into their show. They did bring up the Nazi tattoo, but listen to how they soft pedal this. Yes, it was a tattoo resembling a Nazi image is the verbiage he uses. He also declines to tell you that this was covered up within the last calendar year. It's not like this is a tattoo he got when he was 18 and he covered it up when he found out what it was at age 20, and that was 28 years ago, and he's lived most of his life with that thing covered up. No, actually he wore it for 18 years as a grown man, just got it covered up last October. But this is how they soft pedal that. I love watching these people be apologetic and sympathetic to a Nazi rapist. Isn't this some disgusting stuff?
Plattner bringing a shot of energy to the race, but his scandals quickly piling up. Another girlfriend accusing him of abusive behavior, which he has denied. But he acknowledges sending sexual messages to multiple women shortly after he was married in 2023, and that he covered up a tattoo resembling a Nazi image on his chest, saying he didn't know its meaning.
Oh, yeah, I just got this, didn't know its meaning. Just accidentally got a Nazi tattoo. Like me and Good Garrett had to look it up. Like I didn't even know what that was called. I didn't even know that was a Nazi tattoo. But there, Garrett looked it up, and Good Garrett's like, look, it's right here. What was that, Himmler's hat? It was on his hat right under the Iron Eagle thing looking. Yeah, Himmler. Thank you. So you mean to tell me you just accidentally got this awfully specific symbol that Himmler wore on his fancy little Nazi hat? It's not believable. You know, if Donald Trump had a Nazi tattoo at any point in his life, it would be in the headline. It'd be like Nazi candidate accused of rape. Actually, it'd be Republican, right-wing, conservative, white, straight, male Nazi candidate accused of rape. It's probably how they would write that one out. But Scott Jennings having a good time with this over on CNN. He gets to ask the question, why now? Why do y'all care now? The Nazi thing wasn't a deal breaker, but the 14th rape accusation somehow is. What's really going on?
No, he had been vetted. All of the things that have been stated, it was all out in the public. And people like Ro Khanna, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Tim Walz, the Bulwark, Pod Save America, all these people came together to overlook it all, to explain it all, to rationalize it all. He was vetted. People knew all these things. And a whole bunch of Democrats in Maine showed up and voted for him anyway. And a bunch of donors from around the country sent him money anyway. I agree with Alyssa's question. What changed? Why are you bailing on Graham Plattner now? You already signed off on Nazi tattoo, a self-described communist, somebody who's had rape fantasies, somebody who has been on a social media platform known as a playground for predators, and on and on and on and on and on. And the difference between this accuser and the previous one is simply this. She's a liberal. It's okay, I guess, for Democrats that their candidates assault conservatives. But he broke into someone's house and apparently, according to her, raped her. And because her politics are correct, they can now believe it. All of this whole thing is disgusting. But to say that they hadn't vetted him or that they didn't know about all this is totally false. They knew it and they signed up for it. And I don't know why they're backing away from this scumbag today when they had already signed off on all that other crazy behavior.
Christine.
Well, I guess you could say they did not see that coming. Shut up. That was bad. That was bad. Don't encourage me on that one. Let's add to the list here of number of rapes that Team Blue will cover for. They're covering for the UK Muslim rape gangs, and they have been constantly covering for all those. Like, let's not act like that's a big deal just because 250,000 little girls get raped based on the color of their skin. It's like, let's not jump to conclusions about an entire group of people. One bad apple shouldn't spoil the 250,000 bad apples shouldn't spoil the rest of the bunch for the other 10%. And then here they are. They've been excusing and overlooking a Nazi tattoo guy with rape accusations. Now, we're supposed to turn around and immediately be concerned about the threat of white supremacy in America, and that's our biggest threat, and it's so scary. Sonny Hostin is scared of the American flag because white supremacists are such a big problem. Meanwhile, you have a guy with the Nazi tattoo, and he's still running. He hasn't even dropped out yet. You got the endorsement of all of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. You heard the list from Scott Jennings. I think that's one of the most important parts of this story is I know you already knew that they had double standards and they are hypocrites, but you got to think there are a lot of people who are on the cusp between Team Red and Team Blue, and they're seeing what's really going on here. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I would be interested if you have any theories as to why now, because the only thing I can think of is, number one, maybe they didn't plan for it to happen now. This is happening against their wishes, and they thought they could fly under the radar and just have a guy that they would totally own. Number two, they wanted this to happen now, so it's after the primary process. They can kick this guy down, and whoever's in charge of the Democrat Party gets to appoint who the candidate is going to be. I really don't know the answer to that. 800-288-9227, but we'll continue fleshing out those two options next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I think he's going to stay in the race. I think a bunch of your Team Blue friends are going to vote for a Nazi. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. And I usually roll my eyes whenever I see any mention of Nazis in the news because in 2026, pretty much every time someone gets accused of being a Nazi, they're not a Nazi. You were accused of being a Nazi for what? Wanting voter ID laws or not wanting Obamacare or wanting a tax cut or not wanting to close your church here in Cove. You were a Nazi. So they see Nazis everywhere. They see Nazis in a Sydney Sweeney blue jeans ad. Do we not remember that? I think some people might not remember that. Here, let me play one. They saw Nazism in Sydney Sweeney's American Eagle blue jean ad, but a guy who has an actual Nazi tattoo, they can't see that.
Should we be surprised that a company whose name is literally American Eagle is making fascist propaganda like this? Probably not, but it's still really shocking. Like a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman is talking about her good genes. Like, that is Nazi propaganda.
Okay, that's Nazi propaganda. But what about the guy who had a Nazi tattoo on his chest for 2 decades? Just covered it up last October when he started running for Senate. Can you support that? Do you see Nazism there? You don't see it there? You don't? That's not a deal breaker? And this is something that we are going to dance on for a long time in Team Red media. Because on one hand, they were saying we can't condemn him for this. On the other hand, Donald Trump, this was June 10th of this year, so not even a month ago.
I watched that thug that's up in Maine. He's a thug. And they're trying to make excuses for him. I mean, he's worse than any human being that's ever run for office, probably. I don't know him. I don't want to say bad, but I just, look, I mean, nobody's ever had a record like that. And you'll have Schumer. He goes crazy over this or that, or Epstein. This guy. Why are they talking about him? He said, well, we don't know, but this guy's got a rap sheet. I've never seen anything like it. He's a thug.
Well, he's a thug. Thug is kind of a vague term. The guy has a Nazi tattoo on his chest. And it's not like an obvious one. He didn't get a swastika. He got something that we had to look up what it was, Totenkopf. I think that was it. Which is different than the squat and cough. That is something that Good Garrett has to do whenever he gets arrested. He has to do the old squat and cough. Sarah Jacobs is a member of Congress based out of California. You can definitely hold that against her because she was asked not too long ago, you got this candidate here. He's got a Nazi tattoo. Will you condemn it? This was Sarah Jacobs just a few months ago.
But you think he should leave the race?
Look, I don't know. The honest answer is I'm not in Maine. Now, I also believe that people can grow and believe in second chances. And I look forward to hearing what he has to say to really atone and amend for this.
But, there's been a crazy Nazi hyper alert. The use of white supremacy and Nazi has exploded in the mainstream media over the last 10 years, really the last 6 years. And then when an actual Nazi shows up, the fact that they aren't falling all over themselves to condemn him makes me want to just rub it in their face. Don't you want to rub it in their face? Because remember the Stars Nazi salute guys? And this isn't a condemnation of the Stars. This isn't a condemnation of the TV outlet reporting on it. This is a condemnation of all the people in the comment section that were saying, we can't let this stand. We can't let some guys doing a Nazi salute stand. And this was 4 months after the fact.
Shot, he scores!
A 5-1 win at the American Airlines Center was a good night for the Stars, but a shocking one for fan Courtney Ripley.
Just disgusted overall. That's not something that I want to see when I go out.
She says when the Stars scored, the fans next to her did not cheer the same as the rest of the arena.
Like a fist pump motion, you're almost like you're hammering something into a wall. But this group of men were doing Nazi salutes instead.
This is her video taken that night in December. We've blurred the faces of the men because they haven't been charged with the crime and we haven't been able to question them about the gesture.
Disappointed because I'm a Stars fan too.
She says she reported it to the fan misbehavior hotline.
They just said, oh yeah, we sent somebody and they couldn't find them.
She says she responded with seat numbers and the video, but still no action.
By the way, that happened in December. This is a story from April. So here they are, 4 months later? We've got to track down. Nazis need to be condemned so thoroughly in society, we can't even allow a salute from 4 months ago to go unpunished. What about this guy from Maine that has a Nazi tattoo on his chest? Oh, yeah, put him in the Senate. Makes no sense, does it? Well, there's not a double standard. The standard isn't that they are against Nazis sometimes and they're pro-Nazis other times. The truth is they're indifferent to Nazis. Just whatever it takes to get power, whatever it takes to diminish your power. That's what they go on. Let's do Michael and Capel. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, James, just went through bug tussle. It's raining big time out there.
Oh, man, I might have to get Blue Ribbon Roofing back out there. What's up?
So you're pretty close with the name of that Nazi tattoo. It's called a Totenkopf, which means death's head. There were two different divisions of the SS.
Which one did you wear?
Well, I didn't wear either one.
Just kidding. Just put it out there. Anyway, go ahead.
I know. All right, so the Waffen SS were the guys with the tanks that went onto the battlefield and fought the Russians and everybody else. The Totenkopf SS were the ones in charge of the death camps. They were the division of the SS that was in charge of the extermination of the Jews. That guy knew exactly what that symbol was.
And Bernie Sanders endorsed him. Michael, Bernie Sanders endorsed the guy who's got the death camp, the concentration camp mascot.
Yeah. Yeah, Bernie Sanders is a decomposing old communist totalitarian. He doesn't care. I don't know what the hell's wrong with the people in Vermont, but yeah, this guy wore the most evil Nazi symbol, but that's even worse than the swastika, because the swastika was actually the symbol of the German government back then. But this particular symbol was only assigned to one group of people, and that was the group of people to exterminate the Jews.
All right, and that is the unofficial historian on the James Show, Michael and Capel, chiming in with his Alex Trebek level knowledge yet again. But I don't think he's going to drop out. I hope he doesn't drop out, because the word is right now. Well, I'll tell you next, coming up on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. I think Graham Plattner is going to stay in the race. Listen, I'm getting a lot of emails of this. I'm not going to talk about this the whole show. I know it's a hot topic. I know it's sexy. I know it has Nazis and it has rape and it has infidelity and Nazi tattoos. It's got a lot of hot topics, but there's some other pressing issues as well. And don't think this one doesn't affect you. Every seat in the Senate that is being decided in November, the entire Senate hangs in the balance. If you want to get the SAVE Act passed, if you want to get legislation like that passed, if you want to get these government shutdown deals done in your favor, if you want to maybe have a chance of getting Obamacare repealed or any of your legislative priorities for the next 2 years, this is going to decide that. I think the bigger impact, though, is we have so many people on the record as endorsing this guy, even after rape accusations and Nazi tattoos were revealed, and they are just now walking it back. And I don't think a lot of us are ever going to forget that. A lot of us are going to remember, wait, didn't you just endorse a Nazi? So what's going to happen next? Well, Graham Plattner hasn't dropped out yet. The Democrat Party of Maine has said they want him to drop out. I believe Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have both rescinded their endorsement. A lot of people are coming out rescinding their endorsement. But the latest on social media, and this is coming from sources where it's like someone on the inside says, so I don't even know who's really at the bottom of this well. But the prevailing storyline floating around on Twitter/X right now is Graham Plattner says he would be willing to drop out if and only if he got to name his successor. Now, the Democrat Party of Maine doesn't want to do that because if Graham Plattner drops out without naming a successor, then they get to choose. And that's a huge power, too. You get to choose a senator. You know how much money you can make if you got to choose the next senator? Rod Blagojevich, the former governor of Illinois, knows. That's not why he went to prison, but he should have. So the entirety of the Senate hangs in the balance. And if Graham Plattner gets his way on this one, if Graham Plattner gets to say, I'm not dropping out unless I get to choose my replacement, then you're still sort of bowing and negotiating, being sympathetic toward a Nazi rapist. I don't know if there's a good way out of this for them. Not that I'm looking for a good way out of this for them, but this is going to be so great to watch. And right now, I can hear internet ninjas making montages of all the people who came out and said that they support a guy who's a Nazi. All these people that came out and said they support a guy, even though he has rape accusations, credible with evidence rape accusations. It just got so loud that people are finally pulling out. And really the only question is, why now? Here's a comedian, Hans Kim, on a recent episode of Kill Tony, explaining how in all this Nazi talk, Trump is definitely not a Nazi.
Yeah, we are at war right now with Iran. We've won 4 times already. Now, when the Epstein list dropped, everyone in a third world country was like, oh no, they're going to need a distraction. And the Jews were like, oh good, they're going to need a distraction. A lot of people call Trump a Nazi. What kind of Nazi goes to war for the Jews? I wish he was a Nazi. Maybe gas would be $5 a gallon right now.
All right, you can make a splash this summer and win $1,000 to spend on your next weekend getaway. Enter the Summer Vacay Payday now at WBAP.com. It's in that top headline rotator. Sponsored locally by Classic Chevrolet. Relax and enjoy the difference. And thanks to them, if you go in and you enter this Vacay Payday, you have pretty good odds of winning. It's better than winning the lottery. It's better than winning a scratch-off ticket. It's better than hitting all the green lights on your way home from work. So go to WBAP.com, sign up for the Summer Vacay Payday, and hopefully a James Show listener will be the one who gets to win $1,000 from Classic Chevrolet. Coming up next on the James Show, teen takeovers are still making news. There was a lot of them over the weekend, and we're having a problem with them here in North Texas, but we'll talk about what they really are coming up next on the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. How bad do teen takeovers have to get before we call them what they really are? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I'm not sure if we will ever get to that point. I'm not sure if we will ever have the media be honest with you on something as touchy as teen takeovers, because you and I both know what the common denominator is in all of these stories. It's not the fact that they're teens, and it's not the fact that they're takeovers. They are black riots. And I don't want anybody to misunderstand me. I'm not talking about this is a problem with all black people. This is a problem with the majority of black people. No, this is a small subset within the black community that is almost wholly responsible for what is being called teen takeovers now. Now, the dishonest part about this comes from the soft gloves, the special treatment that the woke crowd, that Team Blue gives to people based on the color of their skin. The fact that they dance around it it doesn't mean they're racist, but it hints at what a racist person would do. Would a non-racist person be scared of telling the truth about a story just because it's racially tinged? Absolutely not. They would colorblind walk straight forward into the truth, no matter what the racial implications are. Now, you can't say that about what's going on with the teen takeovers. They're just dancing around it. Yeah, we had a problem with teen takeovers, and you probably, if you didn't see this on your social media feed already yesterday or over the weekend, there's teen takeovers in Atlanta, there's teen takeovers in Florida, teen takeovers in Charlotte. Was Charlotte the one where the female cop got beat up? There's like a whole group of them beating on this little blonde female cop, and a few other cops have to come to her rescue. I played a viral video of one of the teen takeovers in Memphis. This was on the 4th of July. They ended up having a scuffle with some cops. A bunch of people got arrested. But here's just a small clip, partially because it doesn't contain any cussing. But this is a young fella saying, "I'm finna kill a cop." That's what he's saying. "I'm finna kill a cop."
I'm gonna kill a cop tonight. I'm gonna kill a cop tonight. Get ready.
Oh, yeah. Threatening cops. Now, remember, we learned that making a Nazi salute, or perceived, we don't even know if it's a Nazi salute, those kinds of threats at a Stars game are so untenable in the public sphere, it has to be called out and can't be let go even 4 months later until we track down the person who made that threat and punish them. What about this kid? Is this kid getting away with it? Anybody coming down and condemning him and punishing him? And here's the part where they actually call the teen takeovers what they are, black riots. Let me play this part from all the media coverage. Oh, that's right. There's not any. Fine. Ignore the story. Ignore the story about how we have hundreds of people getting arrested in these air quote teen takeovers. We have property being destroyed on a regular basis. We have people being hurt, if not killed, on a regular basis. We have mass shootings on a semi-regular basis. But they're not all teens, and it's not a takeover. A takeover is what the Norwegians did to this bar called Happiest Hour that's 2 blocks away from where I'm broadcasting right now. I'm at the American Airlines Center, and if you go that way on Nowitzki Street, there's a bar called Happiest Hour. And a little over a week ago, when Norway was playing here in Dallas, their fans were here, and they all sat down in the rows of Happiest Hour, and someone went to boom, boom, and everyone, row, boom, boom, row, boom, boom, row. And they made a video, and they put it online, and it was so cool, and you liked it, and you shared it out. That's a takeover. But when people are jumping on tables, when people are breaking things, when people are stealing things and knocking over racks and destroying the inside of a 7-Eleven, that's a riot. It's no longer a takeover. And so you know what this is about. If they do fairly report the race, even when it doesn't fit the narrative, then the narrative gets blown apart. Who on earth can make the case that this is a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobic nation if we actually reported the truth about what goes on? Because if you did start spelling that out, if you did start adding the race in, you would sound silly if you were trying to make the case like, whoa, we got a problem with white supremacy in America. No, we got a problem with about 28 other things before we can get down to a white supremacist. Because we're supposed to be so concerned about the black girl that was on the train with the Patriot Front guys, the guys that are supposedly white supremacists. But actually, the number of people that have been hurt by the Patriot Front is still at 0. And that's probably the safest train ride she's ever taken. She would be safer on that train ride than in the middle of a teen takeover. Wouldn't she? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is Damani Fielder. He is a influencer on social media, happens to be black, but he addressed the black woman on the Patriot Front train.
Let's talk about this picture Democrats are losing their minds over. There's a photo going around of this black woman who's riding the DC Metro along with members of Patriot Front. Now, what is Patriot Front? Well, if your brain's completely smooth, then you would know that the SPLC, the Democrat group that was caught funding the KKK recently, yeah. So they call the Patriot Front some far-right fascist white supremacist group, right? So they were in DC, but this picture shows a black woman who is sitting there on this bus with them that is standing room only. And yet, she is not being assaulted. She's just sitting there. She even has the entire row of seats to herself. So, people who are sitting there saying, oh my gosh, this is going to show us how crazy of a time this was in Trump's America. This picture is actually proving the opposite of what you think it is. See, you would have people believe that, oh, if you're around a white supremacist person, then your life is in danger, right? When statistically speaking, your chances of being assaulted by a minority are much higher than by a white person, but I digress. But this picture here is just showing her, okay, so this Patriot Front group, if you believe that's what they really are, many people actually are smart enough to realize they are not. They are probably some sort of agents involved in some degree of subterfuge, but I digress. So they think that these people, are this terrible, hateful, hurtful people who, if you look at them the wrong way, they'll go crazy and lose their minds on you. And yet, this picture shows exactly the opposite. I'm tired of having to sit here and tell people in 2026 that white supremacy is not the biggest threat to their lives. And honestly, this picture goes a long way towards proving that it is not the existential threat that many leftists think it is, and they still cannot even figure that out themselves. Let's get that out of the way right now.
800-288-9227. We will continue talking about the problem with teen takeovers, especially them being not being branded as black riots. Coming up next on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. We're talking about teen takeovers on the James Show. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You're home for the WBAP morning show. If you're just joining us, this keeps happening. We have some of them that these stories pop up a little bit in North Texas, but there were a whole slew of them over the holiday weekend. A lot of it was not necessarily aimed at 4th of July ceremonies, but just happened to be there. And you saw cops get attacked in multiple places. You saw a lot of property damage. You saw I'm not bothered by the people shooting fireworks at each other. I don't care what neighborhood it's in. If it's the ghetto neighborhood, if it's the projects, that looks like something that could just as easily happen at the trailer park. So we don't have to gripe about everything. But the mayhem being covered for kind of should bother you. People are out there getting attacked, properties being damaged, people are getting hurt. And the soft pedaling of the race angle of this, where it's not a black riot, it's a teen takeover. Yes, that's what it is. Just a teen takeover. And I don't know why they are so scared to say, well, you got to be concerned about roving bands of violent black guys, because like the previous mayor of Dallas, Mike Rawlings, didn't feel abrasive or too sensitive to say that we should be concerned about roving bands of violent white guys.
This is a serious issue. I am more fearful of large gatherings of young white men that come into schools, theaters, and shoot people up, but we don't isolate young white men on this issue.
Right, and there's also MSNBC warning you about white rural rage. No concern there.
White rural rage.
The threat that white rural voters pose to the country.
Anyway, you know where that's all going. But on this one, they dance around. When there's actual violence, when there's actual roving bands of somebody hurting other people and causing property damage, all of a sudden the race disappears. Isaac in Fort Worth. Welcome back to the James Show, sir.
Warren, can you please stop saying Patriot Front has done anything violent? The young lady on the train was safer there than anywhere else, because that's a complete fabrication.
Okay, well then this would be easy to disprove. What has the Patriot Front done that's violent?
They were sued and had to pay almost $3 million to Charles Morrell because of the violence they inflicted on him.
Charles Murray Morrell?
Morrell.
How do you spell that?
Murrell. Charles Morrell III.
Let's see.
$3 million.
So what did Morrell do?
And then he got jumped by Patriot Front.
Oh, yeah. No, I saw this. He got jumped. You mean he ran into a Patriot Front group, and when they removed him, we called that getting jumped?
Okay, well, obviously the court did not see it the way you see it.
Well, no. A civil court didn't see it the way I saw it. In a civil court in the city of Boston, when you put a bunch of Nazis in front of them or white supremacists. But this is what you got. This is what you have. Is this the worst instance of violence you have? Is a fight that they didn't even start?
Okay, well, $3 million said it was pretty bad. And number two, there are white kids who are doing...
Wait, hang on, Isaac, seriously. Is that the only example of violence you have from the Patriot Front?
That's the only litigation that I have.
Okay, so can we say, generally speaking, that the Patriot Front is not a violent group?
No, I'm not going to say that about
because they had one
group.
instance of violence.
No, I'm not going to say that about any neo-Nazi group that a person of color is safe around them. That's ludicrous.
Why?
Because they want to remove Hispanics. They want to limit the rights of blacks. You want me to say the black person is safe around that? No. That's
No. The real answer to that is because you give me instances where they've either actually harmed, like by starting the fight, not by defending themselves.
Oh my goodness, James, you sound crazy defending neo-Nazis, but that's okay.
I'm not defending neo-Nazis. I'm not. Look, I do not agree with them. I think they have an abhorrent worldview. But to act like that woman was in jeopardy because she was on the train with neo-Nazis belies logic, because there are no examples of these guys randomly attacking people based on the color of their skin or for any reason. They haven't attacked anybody.
That's your opinion.
Well, hang on. So hang on. I don't think we can go forward here. We're not having a dialogue. If you are still going to continue in the conversation in the belief that the Patriot Front is an inherently violent group. They had one instance that they didn't even start. They didn't even initiate the use of force there. So you can't say that they're inherently violent. And if you're going to put your flag down on this one, remember in this conversation, we're talking about black riots that are happening. And I bet that you're going to say it's not fair to call them inherently violent. And when they have more than one instance of violence and it was something that they had initiated.
Okay, so there's a question because as I spoken before, I told you that I do not approve any violence. I said the kids who participate in these takeovers should be arrested, and you can even go after the parents for damages. That's what I told you previously. And since you brought us to this conversation, there are white kids who are riding around on e-bikes and motorcycles and dirt bikes, and they're causing damage in various places in the United States, doing the same exact thing. So it's not a black thing. The kids are doing stupid stuff right about now, and they all should be punished, and the parents should be held account.
Okay. Yeah, you see.
You can look that one up too, sir.
Well, listen, I do see roving bands of white people doing mob violence, but it's called Antifa.
Oh, so you're not going to look up the bike takeover and the kids going on the golf course and doing wheelies and kids jumping on people's cars and busting out windows. You're not going to look that up.
No, I can look that up, and that's fine. I'm sure there are white kids that are doing some bad things, period, somewhere in a nation of 340 million people. However, would you agree that, you know, these takeovers where there's violence and sometimes shooting, that happens more predominantly in the black neighborhoods or the black demographics than the white?
As I told you before, I'm not a takeover expert. So if it is, arrest everybody who's involved. You can put a curfew up. To me, I don't tolerate foolishness, and it's stupid. It doesn't make sense. Just like you saying a black person is safe around Patriot Front, it doesn't make sense.
Hang on. See, this is where I want you to at least admit that. Black people are safe around Patriot Front.
Not in a regular H no. And that group, Patriot Front, broke apart from a more violent group. And you can look that one up, sir.
That's fine. Again, listen.
Okay, well, enjoy the show.
Hang on. You have one instance of the Patriot Front, air quotes, doing an act of violence, but it was actually them retaliating and removing a guy who was forcing themselves into their march in Boston. If you don't have another one, that it's going to be really hard for me and the people listening to think you're taking an honest look at this situation if they are condemned as violent for one act that they didn't even initiate.
Again, they broke apart from another group, and they were.
So you're saying you don't have another one?
Can I finish? I would like to finish my statement.
I would like for you to admit what we all see is very obvious. The Patriot Front is not a violent group.
You'll be waiting for that one, sir. If you pay $3 million.
Well, then we're not having a dialogue. If you can't admit that the Patriot Front is not a violent group.
We just don't agree.
Well, it's not. No, look. It's one thing if you don't agree, like, what's the best song in the country? But the sky is blue, bro. And if you don't agree with that, then there's no reason to move forward because you're not having an honest conversation.
Well, there's no way you're going to get me to say a neo.
Right, because I know because you've already been trained. You've already been trained that if they can, yes, you have. You've already been trained that as long as they can label something Nazi, then you can dismiss it, and you don't actually have to take the arguments of the other side on. And actually address the merits of the argument. You can just dismiss that because it's been called a Nazi. That's what you've been trained to do, and you're acting on that training.
No, I've been educated based on history and the propaganda and the philosophy of these neo-Nazis. So therefore, you cannot tell me anything about a black person being safe around a group of neo-Nazis.
See, now you're conflating the ethereal concept of neo-Nazis with a very specific group that hasn't initiated any violence against any black people, and there's not one record of it.
Your statement wrong. $3 million say your statement is wrong.
No, it doesn't. No. They can still be guilty of a $3 million civil judgment and not initiate the use of force against the black guy.
But they use force.
They use force. Did they initiate the use of force?
They use force.
Did they initiate the use of force? Did they initiate the use of force?
They were found guilty by their peers.
Did they initiate the use of force?
They were found guilty.
Did they initiate the use of force?
Well, sometimes.
Did they initiate the use of force?
Sometimes.
Did they initiate the use of force?
Still found guilty.
Did they? 1,
2, 3, sir.
Did they initiate the use of force?
Enjoy the show.
Did they initiate the use of force?
$3 million said they did. How about that?
So that's a
$3
no.
million said they were wrong.
Did they initiate the use of force?
That's a $3 million hit.
Did
on
they
their
initiate
pocketbook,
the use of force?
They were wrong.
Did they initiate the use of
They
force?
were found guilty. How about that?
Did they
Found
initiate the
guilty.
use of force?
Were they guilty?
Did they officiate the use? No, it wasn't guilty.
Were
It's
they found
civil. It's a
liable?
civil trial. Did they initiate the use of
Were they
force?
found liable?
Did they initiate the use of
Were they
force?
found
Yes, they
liable?
were found liable, but not for initiating the use of force. So did they initiate the
there
use
we
of
go.
I answered
So
your
there we
question.
go.
Answer my question. Did they initiate the use of force?
I don't know. Let me look at the film. Have a great day.
They haven't initiated the use of force once against a black person, and he's saying they're violent against black people. Point stands. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. We'll have an update on the street preachers that were cited. They were ticketed for offensive speech at the Trinity Pride Fest in Fort Worth last month. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Coming back on The James Show, CJ Grisham. He's the lawyer for the street preachers. He's also shown up on many stories on The James Show over the last couple of years. CJ, isn't this you in this clip I was playing from the street audio?
So no, but that ordinance means...
Just out of that. Is that you? Okay, I think I got this from your account then. Let me play a little bit of the back and forth between the street preachers and the cops there, and then we'll jump in with CJ and get the update on where their situation is now. The two clips. This one was from Carlos Tercios.
But no, I want to, and I'm being dead serious. So if a biological male comes up to me who says he's a woman, and I call him, I say, sir, and he gets offended, is that a citable offense? If I call a biological male a male, and he says I'm offended, I'm gonna whatever. Is that a citable offense if he's offended by that speech?
Man, we're talking gray area right now. When I talked about it earlier, when it says that's a vague conversation, vague charge.
I'm genuinely curious.
Sure, I don't believe I would cite that for offensive language. Offensive language to me is calling somebody
N-word,
curse words.
We don't curse, we're preachers.
Sure, no, I agree. But it's more like you call somebody a male, I don't necessarily find that offensive unless they come up to
You don't, but what if they do?
That's what I'm saying. If they come up and say, hey, I'm offended by that, and you continue to do that, well, then that's just becoming offensive to them.
And here's the catch. Right, here's the catch.
So it's the, hey, warning, I'm feeling offended by that, then we're moving into the potential.
But so what if I'm offended by what they say? Like they come up telling me this and then the other, swearing at me, will they get cited?
Are you offended by it?
I'm offended by all of this.
What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
I'm offended by seeing half-naked men run around with children. I am deeply offended by that.
Correct. Unfortunately, there's not much on our side to do anything about it.
Okay, so that was June 28th, 2026. Now, CJ Grisham, the Second Amendment attorney for the state of Texas. What's the update now a couple weeks later? Well, there's not official charge. You're expecting charges. I thought y'all just got a ticket at the scene and there was nothing else to come of that. I don't know anything about the previous times. Tell me about that. All right. Let me do a piece of that then. Hang on.
It's pretty loud.
So we can use it up
that ordinance means like music, not talking. If someone is offended by your talking, then we have a problem.
That is a constitutional violation of our rights. If you shut us down,
no. If they are offended by your speech, okay, then I'll write you this ticket, and then we'll go from there.
Wait, you're going to take us for offensive speech?
Yes, absolutely.
Are you serious?
Speech. You're going to cite us for offensive
speech. It's called disorderly conduct.
That's
no.
All right. So what is disorderly conduct, CJ? And obscenity, like describing something sexual, not like, oh, I find your speech to be obscene. Okay. Well, I would like for them to establish a precedent, and then we can turn around and use that on all future protests. Can we just go stand next to the next ICE protest and be like, these people are offending me, round them up? Oh, it would be over. Hang on. Let me take 4 minutes here, and we'll continue with CJ Grisham. He's a Texas attorney, takes on some of these awesome cases, and right now we're talking about the street preachers who were cited for offensive language at the Trinity Pride Fest a couple weeks ago. And I'm going to ask what's happening in the future. Are they about to get paid? I'm James Parker. It's The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, James Parker here for Rhino Shield. Homeowners, listen, we have this new space age technology that makes paint obsolete. Well, obsolete for the outside of your house. If you want to paint the inside of your house with regular old paint, that's fine. But for the outside, you're crazy to not use Rhino Shield because it looks better than paint. It does all the colors, it does all the things, but it lasts longer than paint. It does things paint can't. It has an insulation factor. It doesn't crack, paint, flake, peel off. But also, it does some other things that paint can't do, in the fact that sometimes if you put the wrong kind of paint over the wrong kind of brick, what you're doing is making a seal there, and you're just starting to rock the brick and mortar from the paint inside. Rhino Shield doesn't do that. It helps your brick and whatever's behind it last longer because it's actually breathable, and it expands and contracts with the house when it gets hot and cold. And for some people, they don't know. It's just the wrong type of paint with the wrong type of mortar or the wrong type of brick, and you don't have to worry about that either with Rhino Shield. So not only is it best for the people inside the home, it's best for the home itself. So don't do it anymore. We don't paint our house. We coat our home. Go to rhinoshieldDFW.com. Are the Fort Worth street preachers going to get paid for being cited at the Trinity Pride Festival? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Don't forget the WBAP morning show from whenever you wake up until 9 o'clock. We're continuing with CJ Grisham. He's the Texas attorney that has taken up the case of the two street preachers that were cited. I believe this was June 28th, but it was 2 weekends ago. And my next question is, CJ, are these guys about to get a payday from the taxpayers of Tarrant County? Well, one of the weird places where like the libertarians overlap with sort of the Bernie Sanders and Marxists and communists of the world is we're not a big fan of qualified immunity. And I think this is a good example of why this isn't a big case and no one died and you know, no one was even hurt. But this is this a good example of how qualified immunity really gets in the way of getting rid of bad cops? Yeah, well, I don't know who that's going to be real popular with. I think we're in a minority opinion on that one. You know, the other story we were talking about earlier, and I see you have some hot opinions about it too, is the girl that was on the train in D.C. when the Patriot Front was on, and there was this picture, and they were like, "This is a Pulitzer Prize-winning snapshot of basically what's happening in America right now." And the easy pushback to that stupid narrative is, bro, that's probably the safest train ride she's had in her entire life. Right. I don't know. I just had a caller earlier saying, well, the Patriot Front's an inherently violent group because they've had one case where there was a fight. And I don't know. I find the whole thing frustrating because people have just turned their brain off at just the mere accusation of Nazi. Oh, I love that. Well, and also, you know, they're not real Nazis, or else they would have been nominated to run for Senate. See, that's another joke in there. Yeah. All right. Well, they might have got funding from the SPLC. I wouldn't rule that one out. Are you still rolled up in any of the aftermath from the Carmelo Anthony case? You also have a post on X from earlier today that made me think. You were thinking, as long as the Black Panthers and NAACP and United Negro College Fund, Black Chamber of Commerce are allowed to exist, why should we have a problem with the Patriot Front's existence? I don't agree with them, but why should we care if they exist? All right, here he is, the Texas Second Amendment attorney, CJ Grisham. You can find him on X. He's a great follow at CJ Grisham. Thank you, sir, for being on the James Show again. All right, folks, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. You got a chance to make a splash this summer. You can win $1,000 from our summer vacay payday. Go to WBAP.com, find the little graphic in the headline rotator. Thank you very much to Classic Chevrolet for putting up the money. And I want a James Show listener to win. So go to the contest, enter to win the summer vacay payday now at WBAP.com. Coming up next, you'll hear my very terse reaction to the United States exit from the World Cup. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, the United States ride in the World Cup has come to an end. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I don't know. Don't get me excited here. The United States, I mean, I never thought we were going to win the whole damn thing. But you couldn't ask for much of a better draw in the World Cup knockout round. And this has been kind of weird for me. I know you're probably not the world's biggest soccer fan. I'm a mild soccer fan. I like the sport. I grew up playing the sport. I played through college. I know it inside and out, but I don't really keep up with sports, period, much in adulthood. I'll keep up with the Cowboys game until they lose, I don't know, 6 games, and then I'm kind of done with the season once we get to that level or so. But all that being said, I do hope that maybe one day before the end of my life, we'll come up with a team that at least makes it to the semifinals. I mean, winning it is asking a lot. You have every country on the planet is trying to win this thing, and this is like our 11th favorite sport. So the odds are going to be stacked against us, but why not? Why not be optimistic? You see some strange small teams squeaking through. You know, you saw Croatia in the finals 2 World Cups ago, and you're probably not keeping up with this. But I think one of the lasting memories of this World Cup is not even going to be the World Cup. It's going to be all the cool fans that came to Dallas and partied with us. It's going to be the Scots taking over Boston. It's going to be the Norwegians rowing. Like they do the big Norwegian Viking row after they win. But there's stories like on social media. You might have saw this a couple weeks ago. They're over here at Happiest Hour on the floor doing the row. They were doing it outside the hotel across the street from where I'm broadcasting right now. So that'll be another memory. And so moments like this are what makes a nation, what makes a people, what makes Norwegians Norwegian. And they all share not just this little strip of land that's really cold up there, but they have this shared history as Vikings. And while none of them are Vikings now, they can easily take pride in knowing that this is the people from whence they came. Now, can you say that about people that just moved there from the third world? Can you say that about someone who just moved there? Even from like white people that didn't have Vikings, like someone who just moved there from Moldova. Does it mean as much as them to get to do the Viking row? If you're a guy who just moved there from Panama, does it mean anything to you to do the Viking row? No, it is a shared tradition and value that they all have. And it was kind of cool seeing that. And for what it's worth in America, we can have those too, but it's just not going to be color dependent. We're a little bit different than Norway. Yes, you can have come here from somewhere else on the planet and share our background, share our traditions. But that's pretty much just limited to whites, blacks, and Hispanics. You know, when you talk about the cowboys wearing a cowboy hat, I'm not saying there were 0 Chinese cowboys or 0 Laotian or Pakistani cowboys. But that's not the norm of our traditions. There's plenty of white cowboys, black cowboys, Hispanic cowboys. We share our national history just a little bit different. But it is cool to see what the other countries have going on. And I guess that's kind of who I'm rooting for now that the U.S. team is out. I mean, I kind of like the whole Norway thing going on because it's a nation of 5 million people and they're rising up and they just knocked out Brazil, who's like 240 million people. So that's really cool. It's got to be really hard, though, for these people who hate America to root for America. Check out there was a man on the street interview here where there's a guy who is interviewing a World Cup tourist who looks Pakistani, but I think he's wearing an England jersey here, but he agrees. Death to America. Really?
What would Gandhi say about you wearing that shirt?
I mean, I have a lot of feelings about colonialism. I'm actually Pakistani, so colonialism aside, it's nice to be wearing the England shirt. Even though I've lived in the US like almost half my life.
I'll never wear an America shirt.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. This shirt sucks.
Death to America.
Yeah, death to America. As the Iranians say.
Yeah, hell yeah. But not death to England?
No, because like England's already dead.
Yeah, so England's already dead. We've already taken that and over. It's 20% Pakistani right now. That's done. Now we're moving on to death to America. And even though he's lived here half his life, He still sees his allegiance to his Pakistani background, his Muslim heritage, as not only something that he's not trying to assimilate into America, he's actively trying to conquer us and wish us death. That's not even a World Cup tourist. That's a guy who's lived here more than half his life, he just said. Great. We just learned people who are coming here for the first time from the other side of the planet are loving this place. The people who live here and have been trained by Team Blue to hate it, hate it. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Ben Ferguson, a WBAP alum, calls out CNN for supporting Mamdani's request that everyone turns their air conditioner up to 78 degrees, but they don't have their air conditioner at 78 degrees in CNN. You'll hear the hypocrisy exposed next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, I don't know what kind of pain you have, but I went and asked the guys at QC Kinetics, what all pain can y'all help? And they were, well, we can't help everything, but okay, what have you helped people with? And they have the list here. They have helped people with knee pain. Do you have any of these? Knee pain, shoulder pain, elbow pain, wrist pain, back pain, hip pain, ankle pain, arthritis pain, toe pain, neck pain, foot pain, hand pain, finger pain. The only pain they don't have here is a pain in the neck. They didn't say anything about that one. James Parker here for QC Kinetics. Whatever your pain is, I don't know what it is. Maybe their regenerative treatments can work for you. Again, not everybody, but you find out by doing the free consultation. So give them a call, go in, have the conversation. Wherever your pain is, tell them about it. Tell you how you got it. If they're still unsure about what your situation is after doing an exam, maybe they'll do a little the sonogram on you. They did that on my back. That didn't hurt. It just took a second. And maybe we can get you all patched up. But it starts with you making the call, scheduling the free consultation. Go to 972-972-8610. 972-972-8610. So, Ma'am Donnie wants you to put your thermostat, not you, but New York residents to put their thermostat at 78 degrees. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM. WBAP. You know, this is a refrain that has come up not a lot, but every once in a while it pops up. And like an example of like Obama was telling you when he was running for president, we go back in the Audiotron 3000 to May 17th, 2008. Barack Obama was running for president, and he was making the case that we have to have a little austerity. We have to lessen our carbon footprint. We can't just be running around in our SUVs and having our thermostats at 72 degrees all the time. Y'all remember this?
We can't drive our SUVs and, eat as much as we want and keep our homes on, 72 degrees at all times, and whether we're living in a desert or we're living in the tundra, and then just expect that every other country is going to say, okay, you guys go ahead and keep on using 25% of the world's energy, even though you only account for 3% of the population.
Yeah, I don't get that at all. Why can't we? What does the other side of the world care if I drive an SUV or I eat a meat-heavy diet or I keep my thermostat at 72 degrees? In fact, I might keep it at like 70 or hell, 68 now. Say it again. I'll put it even lower. So it didn't start with Obama either. There was the classic Jimmy Carter speech that is now known as the Malaise speech, even though if you go through the transcript of the speech, he doesn't actually say the word Malaise. But he that's the one where he's like, well, if it gets a little cold outside, don't turn up the heat. Put on a sweater. Remember that one with this goofy little Georgia accent, foghorn leghorn sounding mini socialist? Put on a sweater. And he was against gas using. And so this is not new. This is fitting straight in with the classic Team Blue tradition of you're going to have to sacrifice some of your luxuries here for the greater good. Now, the common Animal Farm pushback on that is, well, you're not. Jimmy Carter, you don't tell me, President of the United States, you don't keep your thermostat wherever you want. You don't think Al Gore keeps his house at 70 degrees at all time? You think Al Gore has his thermostat up at 78? If you go to Zoran Mamdani's house, do you think he has his air conditioner on at 78? Do you think any of these people have their AC on at 78? Because they will push to spend billions of your dollars for public transportation, but the elites don't ride transportation. They will push for bike lanes, but they don't take bikes to work. They will push for all of these things that they want you to do. They will force you into Obamacare, but keep their own healthcare system. And if what's good for the goose is good for the gander doesn't apply to this privileged elite, well, then you have the exact Orwellian Animal Farm situation. And Ben Ferguson did the obvious thing. He called it out. On CNN, Abby Phillips and crew, there's 5 people at a table. One of them is Ben Ferguson. The other 4 disagree with him. Ben Ferguson, a WBAP alum, and they were making the case that this is a dumb hill to die on. What do you care if he wants it to be at 78 degrees? And Ben Ferguson's loving it. He's loving it. Oh yeah, you don't have it 78 degrees here in this studio. You support this position. You're defending Mamdani, saying turn your thermostats up to 78 degrees, but you yourself in the studio where we're broadcasting right now, it's not at 78 degrees.
A bizarre hill to die on, Ben. I don't understand this.
Do you support it?
Ask Nikki Haley.
No, but I'm asking you, do you think, when you saw that, you're like, hell yeah, let me walk over there and knock that number up to 78?
Let me ask you a question. Is Nikki really the Republic of South Carolina?
Hey,
on the stage?
It's 78 there a lot. It's 78 there a lot.
What
but do you support
Ben, don't you live in Texas?
I live in Texas,
Okay,
and
so
there's no way in hell we're putting it on 78 degrees.
That's why your
Just to be
grid
clear,
falls apart.
It's not 78 degrees in here right now either. No one's going to abide by this. It's absurd.
But Ben, I'm just saying, this is a weird.
Ooh, he busted him because he did the thing where, do you support this position? And I think Abby Phillips, she's not a genius. She's not going to be building any rockets that go to the moon. But she's smart enough to know that she's being set up in that instance. She knows that if she says, yes, I support this position, then the next thing Ben Ferguson is going to say is, well, is your thermostat at 78? If she says she doesn't support the position, then she's taking on the exact same side as the people she's criticizing. He already has her nailed to the wall. She refuses to answer the question. So then he just answers it for her. And this is why we like Ben Ferguson. This is why every night when they do that show, they have 5 seats and they can only put one thinking person on the panel. Because can you imagine if it was 2 of them, or God forbid, 3 of them? I love all that. But yeah, it's fun to go back. Because like when you look at the old Jimmy Carter Melee's speech, it was the exact same line of thinking. It was the whole, we can't just keep using all the energy we want. We're running out. In fact, we're going to be out of oil in 35 years. Now, this was September 23rd, 1976. It's before I was born here. But this was now 50 years ago. Let's see how well it stood the test of time, Jimmy Carter. What the heck is that? So now it's coming out of my speakers on the... All right. Guess what? I'm going to have to slide it over to this other computer, and then I will pay it out of there, and this is me stalling in the meantime. But it's the same thing. Now, they didn't have global warming when Jimmy Carter said this. What they had was the oil crisis and the great oil embargo. And so that was their excuse to try and tell you to use less energy, to try and have a smaller carbon footprint. What they did is once the oil crisis went away, they came up with this other fake scientific consensus that now we have to use less oil because we're destroying the whole planet, or we have to stop using oil because we're going to run out of it anyway.
We need to have a realization that we've got about 35 years worth of oil left in the whole world. We're going to run out of oil. When Mr. Nixon made his famous speech on Operation Independence, we were importing about 35% of our oil. Now we've increased that amount 25%. We now import about 44% of our oil. We need to shift from oil to coal. We need to concentrate our research and development effort on coal burning and extraction that's safe for miners, that also is clean burning. We need to shift very strongly toward solar energy.
Yes, they were pushing solar panels back before I was born. Back before they even knew global warming was. They were still on the global cooling tip back then. It's just an excuse. They've always been anti-oil. They've always supported these goofy energy sources that don't work. Why? Because then they can control them. If they only exist because of government subsidies, then politicians control electricity generation. That's kind of powerful. But these people that told you can't be having your big carbon footprint, these people that told you we're going to run out of oil in 35 years, these are the same people that a year ago were telling you the stock market's crashing. It's at all-time highs right now. They're the same people 2 years ago that were telling you Joe Biden was sharp as a tack. They're the same people telling you 3 years ago you need to get the vaccine. 4 years ago we need to do mask and lockdowns. They've been wrong every step of the way on these very important, huge predictions. And they're wrong on all the ones they're making now. These are the same people telling you data centers are bad. These are the same people telling you fireworks are scary. These are the same people saying, no, there's no problem with the black community and teen takeovers. No. White people are just as likely to go throw a brick through the front of a Foot Locker and run out with some Air Force Ones. Sure, that makes total sense. You guys are real credible, totally believable. Heck, 10 years ago, they were telling you Donald Trump repealing net neutrality would ruin the internet. Is the internet still working? Yeah, you're probably listening on it. Some of you listening on it right now. Coming up next on The James Show, would you go to a bakery that hates MAGA, hates Trump, and hates America? Because there's one in town. I'll tell you about it next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, I got some breaking news. Strikes have begun, or resumed, I should say, in Iran. I'm James Parker. It's the News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. It's the James Show, I should say. Sorry, I'm just trying to read up on this real quick because we heard earlier today that the United States announced they're reimposing oil sanctions, which means the ceasefire is pretty much done. And so now it's official. The ceasefire is not just done because we've resumed the sanctions. It's apparently someone cranked out the CCR and things are blowing up again. We kind of thought this is how it was going to go. We don't have the uranium yet. We don't even have proof of the Ayatollah. And as long as guys with bathrobes are in charge, just expect more stuff blowing up. I was kind of optimistic, thinking maybe we can get a guy in there that dresses like Obi-Wan Kenobi, but he's not really committed to the cause. He's just going through the motions so he can be the big guy in the country. But if he's going to be a stalwart like that, maybe we just, I don't know, keep dropping bombs. It's better than boots on the ground. But, the stuff blowing up on the other side of the world feels like I should be a little more concerned about it. But you and I both know that really doesn't directly affect us. And so our real concern maybe is the price of oil. I don't know. Someone was griping about the price of oil yesterday, and it was easily pointed out, hey, the price of oil is back down below where it was when we started the Iran war back in March. So, yeah, you can go ahead and calm down about that talking point. In fact, yesterday when I was coming in from Bug Tussle, I stopped at Buc-ee's, $2.99.9. I hate the 0.9. So I basically paid $3 a gallon for gas. And if I'm not mistaken, that's about what I was paying right before it started. So even, not just the price of oil by the barrel, but even the end product at the pump is getting back down to where it was. So there's not a whole lot of complaints to be had about the Iran war other than just the ethereal concept of, well, I don't like spending this kind of money and I don't like upsetting people on the other side of the planet. But really, downsides on how it affects you, absolutely minimal. All right, I wanted to talk about this illegal fireworks story. Because the illegal fireworks story I find frustrating because it's almost like we're trying to find things, just excuses to keep people scared, excuses to grow government, excuses for new powers to be handed to the folks that are in charge. And I just don't like this as an American. This doesn't feel very American. They had the firework warning for yesterday. They had the fireworks warning coming out last week where they're concerned about, fireworks safety. Don't get your digits blown off. And then when I got back yesterday, I played this one from WFAA.
Police across North Texas busted people for illegally selling fireworks during the 4th of July holiday. Dallas police and Dallas Fire Rescue confiscated more than 1,800 pounds of fireworks. They say in one case, people were selling those fireworks out of a U-Haul.
So what?
On July 3rd, Fort Worth police announced they had busted people who were advertising illegal fireworks on social media.
What the hell's an illegal firework? How can a firework be, is it legal or not? Do you have to have some special license before you can sell a black cat? And not like the feline, the little thing that goes boom. And so I made fun of that a little bit yesterday. And then I'll be damned if they didn't do a follow-up story last night. Where is this push to scare people from illegal fireworks? Because this baseball field they show, like maybe a third of just the outfield was burnt on one baseball field. And it was turf, so it wasn't even like a grass fire or anything. And it was already put out. It wasn't smoldering. It wasn't smoke. No one's life was hurt. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of property damage, but really, this makes news?
Well, right now, we are working to learn more about how a baseball field was scorched over the weekend. You can see much of the turf field was left burned. We're told Woodrow Wilson High School often uses that space. Park and Recreation Board member Rudy Karimi shared these pictures blaming illegal fireworks. Dallas Fire Rescue says they found 2 used bottle rockets on the field. There were security cameras, but they were not pointed to the outfield where the fire started. Dallas marshals are leading the investigation. No word on any charges.
How do they know they were illegal fireworks? How could you possibly know if you don't have the suspects, if you don't have any video, if you have zero clues except for a couple of bottle rockets that were found, just a litter of it? How could you possibly even know they were illegal fireworks? I would bet they were probably legal fireworks. So find it so frustrating. And maybe your ban on shooting fireworks in your own yard and in your street force these kiddos to go someplace. Well, we're not going to do it in our yard because if we get busted, they'll know who it was. We'll go do it in this public place so we can just do it, run over this fence, and get the hell out of here. You pretty much see. I find that all frustrating. Who is the victim in a quote illegal firework sale? All right, coming up next. Would you go to a bakery that hated you? There's a bakery in Flower Mound. And first off, if you have a bakery in Flower Mound, I recommend calling it Flower Mound, like Flour Mound. I did a quick Google search. There's not one. People, look, before you name your business, just send me a Facebook message and run it by me real quick, because that is genius. But in this one, I don't even want to say the name of the bakery because I'm not real big on boycotts and I don't want to hurt small businesses, and I'm not here to make enemies. I'm here to make friends. I'm a lover, not a fighter, whatever. But they talk about how MAGA is a cult full of unintelligent, rabid, immoral sycophants. I'll continue the rest of the message, but the big question goes, yeah, but how good are your cookies? So we'll talk about, do you or do you not boycott a bakery that hates you? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Would you go to a bakery that hates you? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. This comes up because a local bakery in Flower Mound made a post last weekend that it went, I don't know, semi-viral. A lot of my friends passed it around, but it's not like Elon retweeted it. Let me just read the whole thing to you. Now, this is for a bakery. This is on Facebook. It says, we expressed not wanting to celebrate the 4th this year as we're embarrassed, afraid, and disappointed in what this country has become. MAGA is adversarial. It is a cult of unintelligent, rabid, immoral sycophants. Those conservatives who still have rational thought have left the MAGA movement. Those who remain and continue to support the most corrupt administration in our nation's history are here, wishing for our bakery to burn to the ground. Enjoy a little taste of this Americana. We are open tomorrow from 10 to 6 as we refuse to observe this holiday. F this fascist regime and every single person perpetuating the downfall of our country. Still holding out for an AOC revolution. And so they also have a picture of little cakes with the American flag upside down. It says under distress. Does that make you not want to go to the bakery? Now, I'm kind of split on boycotts. Generally speaking, I'm against boycotts. And I've always felt like for most of the time, boycotts are a luxury of the affluent. You know, are you really not buying any products from people who don't support your values? Because we're all putting gas in our cars, some of which originates in countries that hate us. Like this lady, she's putting gas in her car. Some of it may have originated in places where they throw gays off of buildings. Is that okay? Can you do business with them, or do you shun your gas as well? So it's a real slippery slope you run into when you start the whole boycott mantra. But then again, my counterbalance to that, you know, on the other side of the same coin, is if you don't like Bud Light doing whatever promotion with Dylan Mulvaney and you go to the gas station, you open the cooler, there's a Bud Light there, but you just reach 6 inches to the left and grab a Miller Lite and that's your big boycott. Okay, I can kind of get that. That's not really a big deal. But let me throw something else at you. Let me throw you a third way. Because the trouble you and I both have with these is, what would Jesus do? And I'm going to tell you a story of what just happened on Friday. On Friday, a couple of my comedian friends were doing a comedy show, and the guy that was supposed to open had to bail at the last minute. And so it was a last minute thing. They called me and they're like, hey, can you come open? We just need you to do 10 minutes is really all we need. Fine, I'll go do that. And so we went. And it's a tour called The Right Side of Comedy. It's kind of like blue collar comedy tour, but it's right wingers doing right wing comedy for the most part. And it just so happened to be here in town at the time, and they knew me. So cool, I went out and did it. Now, we are at a comedy club where apparently the bartenders were not on board with our politics of comedy. But we had a friend who's actually mentioned earlier on the show, Sarah Fields, who was at the comedy club sitting at the bar. And she came up after the show and she told us, oh man, the bartenders were just so upset. They were huffing and puffing and sighing and cussing. And these people were so evil and stupid. I hate this. Blah, blah, blah. They were just in hell, right? So what did the guy that invited me on do? His name's Kenny. As soon as we heard about that, we both walked over to the bartenders and we're like, thank you so much. We got nothing but compliments from you guys. Everybody loved you. You took good care of us. You guys got a great place here. We really appreciate your hard work. Look, there was only 2 of you and y'all kept up with this big crowd. You guys must be amazing. And then my friend Kenny left them $100 tip each. Isn't that better than a boycott? Don't you catch more flies with honey? I'm not going to go to the Hive Bakery. Oh, I said the name. I didn't mean to say it. I'm not going to go to this bakery and maybe tip them $100, but I don't know. Maybe if a few of us did, maybe that would change your opinion. Chris in Fort Worth, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
James, I do not know anybody in your business that's better than you. You are unbelievable. You can take a story and make it so right out of wrong. And I just appreciate you. You're doing a great job. Keep up the great work.
All right, now I have to tip him $100. But what do you think about this bakery? Would you go to a bakery that hated you like this? How would you react?
The bottom line of that is I don't care anything about doing business with crazies. And people that do things like that, they're not well. You know, to use the F word in situations like that is so far from right. I mean, it's just wrong. And I'd be afraid of that being there when somebody want to really take them out and shoot me too. So no, I could not do that. I mean, I wish them the best, but they're not going to have the best the way that attitude is. You can't be that way. Not in business. You couldn't be that way in radio business. You'd be out of business in about a week.
You know what? All good points. Yeah, all that makes sense. Like, why would you tick off half of your potential customer base? Maybe that's not going to work. I don't know. Maybe they have just really good cookies. Thank you very much. That was Chris in Fort Worth. That's going to do it for my time today. After the James Show, though, if you need more James Show action, go check out the podcast or some of the awesome video clips I put up all over social media, the Facebook, the Instagram, the TikToks, the YouTubes, the whatever. And stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.